What's going on, everybody? This is Warren Dews, the publisher of the Ravenna News Herald and the Greenville Pioneer. As you know, we've been doing a series called the Community Conversations, and it entails something called Get to Know. You can get to know our local businesses in our market. The other one is Meet Your Neighbor, where you get to meet our readers and people that are in the community. And today we are doing Ask the Expert. These are short conversations to ask an expert about a topic. And so today I have a new friend. And my friend, what's your name?
Hi, Warren. My name is Elizabeth or Beth Smith-Bovin. I'm from the Alzheimer's Association.
So tell me what's going on today. I heard there's 10 signs of noticing Alzheimer's. Can you, being the expert, help us with that?
Sure, absolutely. So again, Warren, I appreciate you having me so much. Your area there in Ravenna is very much part of our 17 county territory at the Alzheimer's Association's Northeastern New York chapter. And we are here to provide support and care services to anybody who's concerned about their memory or any other signs of Alzheimer's disease, which again is the perfect segue into what those signs are. So for most people, I think they're most familiar with the idea that Alzheimer's is a memory issue. And indeed, that is true. And so, but it's a very specific type of memory change that happens when a person has Alzheimer's disease. Because when we think about memory, we really can sort of think about memories from the past, which we call remote memory. And those memories are stored in the cortex, or the most outer part of our brain. And those memories, typically, if they were repeated, are memories that last a long time. So think about that in terms of prayers or hymns or the national anthem or the ABCs. Things that you said over and over and over again tend to last the longest as we age. However, when somebody is impacted by Alzheimer's disease, what happens is that the part of the brain that makes new memory, which is located in a tiny spot called the hippocampus, that begins to be flawed by the disease itself. And when that happens, people have difficulty making and storing new memory. So again, they may well remember those things that happened in the past, but if you ask them, what did they have for breakfast, or did they remember their medications, or did they have a visitor yesterday, or get their hair done, those newer pieces of information probably weren't stored. And that's a very important factor and feature in Alzheimer's disease because it helps distinguish it from any other type of memory changes. But to your point, Warren, there are many more signs beyond memory change that we look at when the diagnosis is Alzheimer's disease. One of those signs is folks getting lost in familiar places. So if your loved one begins to go to the supermarket or the bank or places they've gone over and over again, but finds themselves getting a little bit lost or taking longer than usual, just getting turned upside down a little bit, needing cues to find their way to a son or daughter's house, that's a warning sign. We also know that people who are misplacing things is another warning sign. So when people start to call and say, I've lost my keys, I lost my purse, that's one thing to have that happen now and again, right? My husband does that 3 mornings a week. But when it starts to be every day, and when it starts to be many, many items, and items of consequence and significance, then we really need to think about that as well. Another warning sign that we see people have is difficulty with finding the words they want to say. And again, that can happen to all of us from time to time. For example, I watched a movie with my daughter last night, and there was the name of an actor in that film, and I knew it, but it took me about 5 minutes of really thinking about it. And I said, oh, that's Quentin. So that happens from time to time to us, but when it happens often and it happens with routine items that we're trying to describe, that is yet another warning sign. Another warning sign for this disease is twofold. So I'm going to cover personality and behavior changes. So personality is the way in which we act. And so for people who used to be outgoing, let's say, And now all of a sudden they become very introverted. They don't want to go anywhere. And of course, this is separate from being concerned about COVID. But when people become more withdrawn, more insecure about leaving their home or visiting with other people, that's a sign that there's been a shift in their personality. Behavior is a little bit different. Behavior is what we do in response to changes in our personality or in our environment. So, for example, if people become angry because they're misplacing things and they begin to blame people they love, that's a behavior change. That means that people are suspicious, angry. Maybe a lot of families will describe it as some paranoia. So changes in either personality or behavior or both can be considered warning signs of Alzheimer's disease as well. We also see that people have another difficulty that again is twofold, and that is a multitasking problem. So many people in the earliest stages of Alzheimer's disease are very capable of doing tasks that involve just a few steps. So maybe they can make a sandwich and a bowl of soup or pour cereal and fruit for breakfast. However, if they tried to make a big dinner that required the timing of various pieces of that meal, they may struggle. And we see that especially in math. So a lot of folks with early Alzheimer's disease will begin having a lot of trouble paying their bills. Again, they're able to write that check, but making sure that they get it off in a timely way, making sure that they register that in their check register and then balance the checkbook, that then becomes a multitask activity, which people have trouble with. And it's interesting, Warren, because we'll often hear from families that are beginning to get very concerned that one of the things they noticed was mom or dad was having a little bit of trouble with memory, got lost a time or two, and most notably, they found a stack of 3 months worth of bills. Very classic early presentation of this disease, and one that really does need attention.
So I have a quick question. So is there something that you can, like a test that you can take, like a blood test or something like that to say that you might have Alzheimer's?
So regrettably, there is not something as simple as a blood test, but there is a comprehensive workup that can be done by a neurologist or a general practitioner. Typically, your general practitioner doesn't always have the time to do this. So we do recommend that people see a neurologist for that initial diagnosis. And the diagnosis is several-fold. It includes a workup by the neurologist that looks at things like balance and reflexes and pupil dilation and all of those other indicators of brain function. But then it also involves a lot of paper and pencil testing. So asking the person with potential disease to remember certain words and solve math problems and draw a clock. And this gives us some good oversight or overview of brain function. In addition, Warren, and unlike any other disease, the input from family is so critical when we're making a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, because often in the early stage, someone with this disease can make social conversation and do so very beautifully and kind of mask their symptoms. It's not until later that it becomes most evident to someone who's just knowing them. But the family often will say, you know, my mom did great in front of the doctor, but boy, when we're home and you watch her over a 24-hour day, there are many things she struggles with. So that input from family is critically important to the diagnosis.
Is this something that can be prevented? Like, how do you prevent this?
Boy, that's a wonderful question, and one that is, of course, so important to all of us at the Alzheimer's Association. Right now, we don't have any prevention for Alzheimer's disease, but we do have things that people can do to reduce their risk of developing Alzheimer's. So much like we know, Warren, with heart disease and stroke, we do things like maintaining a heart-healthy diet and keeping our cholesterol numbers low, and so forth, to try to reduce our risk of stroke and heart attack. Doesn't mean we're preventing it. You could be the healthiest person in the world and still have a heart attack, but we aim to reduce risk with good public health strategy. In the area of Alzheimer's disease, the risk reduction factors are just about the same. So first of all of the things that we do to protect heart health, like a heart healthy diet, aerobic exercise, keeping your weight and cholesterol at good solid numbers, are very important for Alzheimer's too. And the reason is that 25% of the blood that's pumped by the heart goes directly to the brain. And when brain flow is diminished, we become at risk for Alzheimer's disease. So good heart health means good brain health. And the second thing that we know is that diabetes is probably the second highest risk factor behind age for developing Alzheimer's. So for those people who have diabetes, maintain good control. And for those that don't, try to do everything you can to prevent getting diabetes.
Once you realize that you have Alzheimer's, is there something where you can lower the disease or turning around?
Well, we don't have any. That's another great question. Boy, Warren, you really did your homework. So we don't have any treatments right now that are what we call disease modifying, but we do have many in the pipeline. So you raise a really important point. First of all, most people wait a long time when they have concerns about memory before they're evaluated. And Warren, I would urge anybody that's listening today, if you have those concerns, earlier assessment, as is true in any disease, is true in Alzheimer's as well. So if you have concerns about memory or any of the other warning signs we talked about today, get to your doctor, because early diagnosis means early treatment. And so we do have 4 medications that have been approved by the FDA. Again, they don't modify disease, but they do help people function better longer despite the disease. Secondly, we have many, many medications right now that are in clinical trial, and one that may be approved by the FDA as soon as March that is disease modifying. So we are on the forefront of better treatments for Alzheimer's disease and dementia, but the later you start those treatments, the harder it's going to be to have really good outcomes.
So one of the things that I want to do before we end today, I want our listeners to know, how do they gain more information, more in-depth information about this? And I also want to promise our listeners that later on, I want to do a get to know with your company, so we can have more time to understand the reason why Alzheimer's Association is around, how long they've been around, and the importance of your organization.
Well, we would love that, and we'd be privileged to be with you again. So there are 2 ways really that folks can reach us now. And of course, Warren, I'm sure like many other folks you're talking to right now, we're still delivering our services virtually or by phone. And we're really looking forward to the day where we can be in the communities and safely engaging with folks again. But right now, there are 2 ways to reach us. We have a helpline that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And Warren, especially since COVID, you can't imagine the numbers of people in our 17 counties that call that number. And the number is 800-272-3900. We also have an outstanding website, and the web address is very simple, www.alz.org. And when you go to the Alzheimer's Association website, you'll see a bar across the top, and it will say for caregivers. And you go to that, and it will tell you everything from the 10 warning signs to addressing the latest care innovations and everything in between. It's an extremely comprehensive and easy to use website that we're very proud of, and we get lots of visitors to that as well.
Well, Elizabeth, I truly, truly appreciate you taking the time to teach us about this important disease. And, I do know that a lot of people don't understand it. And this information you're giving us really can help, improve improve the disease and turn people around.
That's
So
right.
I look forward to speaking to you more. Everybody, I will have all the details and links and phone numbers that she mentioned in the post. But once again, I wanted to thank you for your time. And to say again, you can finish.
I was going to say, Warren, I want to thank you for helping to raise awareness in our communities. As I indicated before, it's been particularly hard for us to get the word out since COVID, but COVID has not stopped us, not one day, for being available for people who have questions about memory or for people who are already diagnosed and living with Alzheimer's every day. So thank you for sharing with your listeners that we are here and we are not going away.
Awesome. Once again, this is Warren Dews of Community Conversations. This is our Ask the Expert, and I'm so excited about doing more of these. So have
Me
a
too.
nice day, and Happy New Year.